Sally Richards teaches English as a second language. She has 4 sons, 3 of whom she's launched into the world. Her third son, Jackson, is now 26. He's still dependent. He was diagnosed at an early age with a rare genetic disorder. It means he has the intellectual capacity of a toddler. Sally and her husband, Mac, were just managing. Jackson was loved and safe. In 2007, 60 Minutes produced a story about the family and their efforts to set up Jackson in a business. Life was on the up. But much has happened since then. In turns harrowing, then hopeful. Through it all, Sally Richards remains a fighter for her son, others like him, and their families.
If you think you're doing it tough, just wait till you meet Jackson West and his family. Not that theirs is a sob story, far from it. It's an inspiration with feel-good written all over it. You see, Jackson was born with a genetic flaw, one that left him profoundly disabled. At 21, he has the mental age of a 2-year-old. His condition is unique. There's no one quite like him. At first glance, he looks like a hopeless case, and that's certainly what the doctors said. But Jackson's mum and dad had other ideas, and now he's very much the enterprising young man about town. Jackson West leads a pretty hectic life, and there's not much he doesn't enjoy doing. Swimming's great. Bouncing around at home gets a laugh. And on weekends, chances are he'll be cruising the hills around Canberra with his dad, Mac. This 21-year-old is a bit of a rev head. He loves loud music, especially Madonna. And not surprisingly, he's got an eye
Morning, Jackson.
for the girls.
Hi, Jackson.
See you tomorrow.
He's 25 years old now. His early life was, well, it was very difficult for us because it's always difficult getting used to having a child with a disability. He was a very unhappy baby, but he got better as he got older, and he discovered that he had some skills like walking, and look, he was good. He was well loved, and he had his brothers and his mum and dad, and it was good.
That's it, Jack.
He's got a reasonably rare chromosome abnormality called Phelan-McDermid syndrome, but how that manifests is he's profoundly intellectually disabled. And it's very difficult for people to understand what that means, and I don't like to talk in terms of what Jackson can't do, but in actual fact there's not a lot that he can do independently. We created a courier business for him called Jackmail, and Jackson's been working in that every weekday morning, 8:30 till midday. This is the 5th year of operation, and we haven't missed a day or one mail delivery in all that time. It's a fabulous service, but it took a lot of work and a lot of thinking. We pick up business mail from post office boxes and we deliver the mail to the place of business. We do 5 post offices, and we do an area in the sort of inner south of Canberra, but we do go as far as Queanbeyan.
Hey, Jack. Mouthful of food.
Jackson's role is to get out of the car.
Come on, Jackie, let's go. Come on.
Unaided if he can, he doesn't always cooperate, and carry the bag that's got the mail in it into the business. Jackson doesn't have any speech, but he can look at people and greet them, so his job, if we can get him to do it, is to greet people by looking at them and sometimes handing them the bag. The people in the businesses get very excited if they get some eye contact or a smile from Jackson. You know, it's always very thrilling when you get a response.
Thank you.
That's good, Jackie. That's good, but you've got to make this one straighter. That's it, that's better. Only yesterday he had an MRI of his spine and a CT scan of his left leg, because it's very difficult to diagnose because Jackson can't tell us what he's feeling or where the pain is. Nobody can tell me the prognosis.
What's your leg up?
It's a bit of a mystery. Nobody's really sure exactly what's happened. He got an infection, and part of that infection was pneumonia, but either the infection or his body's response to that infection has somehow affected the nerves in his left leg below the knee. So he hasn't walked now for 9.5 weeks, and he's in intense pain in his left leg. He's been in hospital for 9 weeks. So the illness for Jackson has been completely devastating. It's really catastrophic for him and for his future. Jack Mail has continued to run while Jackson's been in hospital because we have this philosophy of we never miss a delivery. I plan to keep it going. Now that is going to be difficult. If Jackson never walks again, it's going to be very difficult. I'll have to get a van and have it modified for a wheelchair.
He might be actually getting
Lift with the legs.
hungry. How long till dinner?
Mac had a good life. Well, Mac had bipolar too, so he was unwell often. But he was a very much loved man in his family. He was a fabulous dad to the boys. Mac really found having a son with a disability extremely difficult in the early years. It was very distressing for him. Mac's a person who he could always control everything in his life, and if something wasn't right, he would work to make it better. And when Jackson was born, he used to say to me, I can't change this. It doesn't matter what I do or how hard I work. I can't change Jackson's disability. And he found that very distressing. So having Jackson was a factor in Mac's recurring depressions. I mean, Mac said to me once, whenever we have disagreements, it's always about Jackson and the stresses and strains he places on our relationship and our life. And I thought, well, he's right. But, how can having a son like Jackson, much as we love him, but he needs 24-hour support, how can that not put a stress and a strain on people's emotional well-being and on relationships? It just does. As Jackson grew older, they had a great relationship. I mean, Jackson used to go on the back of Mac's motorbike, and we had a 4-wheel drive once, and Mac used to say, there's only one of my sons who will come with me 4-wheel driving, and that was Jackson because he had no choice. But actually, he used to love it anyway, going in the car. He loves going in the car. And yeah, Mac used to take him out every week to a pub, and they'd have, sausages and mash and a beer, and I mean, just the sorts of things that I can't do with Jackson, Mac would do with Jackson. So when Mac died, Jackson lost a lot, he lost a huge part of the quality of his life.
Worry about that, Jackie.
Don't you worry about that. Mac was, he was in Calvary Hospital in the psychiatric unit there, and he committed suicide in June 2009. Actually, we're just a week away from the 2nd anniversary of his death. So he killed himself.
The wife and son of a man who killed himself while staying at a private mental health ward in Canberra have appeared at the inquest into his death.
After Mac died, my life, I'd say, was pretty frightening for me because I actually didn't know how I could manage. Jackson is really often a 2-person guy. So I was a bit frightened about if I'd be able to manage, how I would do that, how Jackson would be with me. My son Tim moved home for 6 months to support me, which was great. And then last year was my first year alone. Anyway, as the year went on, I thought, I can do this, it's okay. I can manage Jackson, I can earn my living, I can keep Jack Mail going. And I was thinking towards the end of the year, it's not too bad, really. And then on Valentine's Day this year, Minister Joy Birch announced some land and a house for Jackson and 2 other young men with a disability that I've been working for 9 years now. And I thought, wow, everything's coming together. This is fantastic. Jackson's going to have his own house. I might get a bit of a life. And then he got sick. Jackson, what are you doing? I do worry a little bit about the state of my body. And it won't be sustainable in the long term, but I just have to be very careful about what I do, and I do a lot of exercise and a lot of strength work so I can be strong to, you know, heave Jackson around. I'd say if you've got a disability, then there's almost no question that you need some extra support, some extra help, some extra care, some extra equipment. Like, people with a disability need more than what they're getting. The Productivity Commission has just put out a draft report into the long-term care and support of people with a disability, and it's currently got the name of the National Disability Insurance Scheme. There's been a huge congress in Melbourne with over 1,000 people, and the report basically is saying what everybody who has a person with a disability in their family knows, that the system is unfair, it's underfunded, it's completely chaotic. Often people who live in Australia, they think we live in this fabulous country, you know, we're prosperous, first world country. Surely people with a disability are looked after. They make an assumption. Many people have said to me, but won't Jackson just go into supported accommodation? Doesn't the government do that? You say, well, actually, no. You know, you can't make an assumption that people are cared for, because many people are not that well cared for. The Productivity Commission draft report has recommended is that the money come out of consolidated revenue, and they're looking at over $6 billion to fund disability for the supports and care that people need. So it's absolutely vital. Bill Shorten spoke at the conference.
It is sobering to realise that so many tens of thousands of Australians live a second-class life in our nation, who live in a form of exile in their own country and who are disempowered. People unable to make choices and live an independent life because this country hasn't been able to fulfil the promise of what I think this country is capable of doing.
And it's true, you know, that a lot of the work that families do goes on behind closed doors in your house. People don't know. You know, it's a hidden kind of a thing. And, you know, what most people do is they just get on with it and they do the best they can with what they've got. And if it's too little, then you just struggle harder.
Good boy, Jackie. Good boy. Good boy.
It's taken the disability community a very long time to stand up and demand their rights. A lot of politicians are saying all the right things. They're talking about how they support us, they're behind us, now's the time, you know, you don't want to be the exiles in your own country. Actually, what the Productivity Commission said is that supporting people with a disability and their families should be a core political commitment of government. It shouldn't be something that's on the periphery. This is core business.
You want to try one more time? Put your hand on the rail, on the handle.
But it depends on the vagaries of government, you know, who's in, who's out, who thinks it's kind of enough of a voting issue, I guess.
Want to sit down again? That's very good. Good work.
I'm tough. No, look, I think partly I have resilience in my genes. I mean, I don't know, but I think that basically I'm pretty tough. I seem to be emotionally quite strong. I'm driven by doing the best for my son Jackson. I mean, I was always, as a parent, wanted to do the best for all my sons, but Jackson is my son, and I will do whatever it takes to give him the life that I think he deserves.
Sally Richards, an amazing person. Now, many thanks to our colleagues at 60 Minutes for generously sharing their original story there. And we've had some good news just recently. We've spoken to Sally, and Jackson has taken a few steps. So she says hope has reared its head once more. Fingers crossed.